What did you want to debate him about? Isn't he an ant?
No, I don't want to debate him. I want to go on to like live debates. Like he was on live debates. Like there are some, debates YouTube shows and whatnot that they pull up people. I'm gonna be like I want to try my luck in that.
Is he like? I mean, I feel like Zet or
Zulu does debate people, but he more so like directly reaches out to people. He doesn't go on to shows. So I don't know if he would know as well as
that's
Ken.
not true. I mean,
He's been on
He's
my
doing
show.
a tournament now, right? But
he went on. Oh God, what's that? It was like one of those internet collections. The big one. One of those big ones.
modern day debate, Crucible. Yeah, Crucible. He went on Crucible. Maybe I should ask him. Yeah, you're right. I want to go on Crucible or modern day debate or whatever. I want to see.
Think you're ready for the big league?
I just want to debate philosophy. I think I can hold my own in the philosophy thing. I don't want to debate too much on libertarianism because I'm, like I said, a bit of a baby libertarian. Like maybe broad strokes, but I don't want to get into nitty gritty like economics debates. Maybe like broad philosophy. I can debate precepts. Sorry.
You can debate who?
Precepts, presuppositionalists, Christians. Sorry if that got no offense. I don't know.
No, I don't. Who?
You don't know presuppositionalist Christians?
Presupposition.
Yes.
Suppose.
It's like a particular type of arguments for Christianity. It's like a very, very.
Oh, is it like argument from like theology?
It's like everyone has presuppositions. I presuppose God, and therefore, like, I have my worldview. What do you presuppose? Like, it's kind of. It's more. I don't know if you have ever seen it, but Jay Dyer does it. Dot Dawkins does it, but whatever. I think I can debate them. I feel like I don't know.
What would your argument be?
I would argue against stuff like Occam's razor. Like they seem to rely on it when they don't have a grounding for it. They can't really ground Occam's razor in anything. It does seem like a problem. Maybe like argue from Occam's razor in a different way. It's a bit broad. Basically, like my problem is they play around. There's this thing in epistemology. It's called the Munchausen trilemma, and it basically is something like there are three types of epistemic attitudes that you can have. Like there's only three types of way you can justify things, and every like epistemological stance has like a unsatisfactory conclusion to it, right? So one attitude is dogmatic stuff. Like let's say you're justifying something, right? You justify X by Y, you justify Y by Z, blah 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 blah, right? And what do at some point? One is circularity. Circularity, you can probably understand why that's bad. Why that's unsatisfactory. Like you justify X by Y, you justify Y by Z, and you justify Z by X. That would be a circular reasoning. Another unsatisfactory thing is infinite regress. Like you justify X by Y, you justify Y by Z, and ad infinitum, it never ends. So you never actually get to the point where it's super justified, right? And that's more of a nihilist or skeptical position. My position is dogmatic stuff, which is to say you justify X by Y, you justify Y by Z, and then you don't justify Z, right? Like you cannot justify Z by anything else, or you just maybe defend Z, or you just you just take Z to be granted, or whatever. That's my position. I am a dogmatic stuff kind of guy. and they seem to. My problem with them. So this is also like a different types of like epistemology. Some are skeptics, some are coherentists. Coherentists are tend to be circular. Like the circular reasoning would be called coherentism, and what I'm, the dogmatic stuff tends to be called foundationalism. I believe in foundationalism. The problem with precepts is they switch between coherentism and foundationalism without justification for only rhetorical purposes. There is no like truth of the matter for either of them, like holding either of them. You're like, are you a coherentist or are you a foundationalist? Make your mind up on that matter, and then we can go on to argue about whether my foundations are better or your foundations are better, or whether or not I should attack your coherentist vision from my foundationalist vision. That would be like I want to like pin them down to something, to some degree. Like that's basically my attitude. That would be my attitude going into a precept debate.
I couldn't really follow that.
That's okay. Basically, I don't like that they are playing around for rhetorical wins. I want to like, I can put myself in disadvantage, but at least like closer to truth, right? Like, and then I would pin them down to like, because they seem to be playing around. They don't seem to be looking for any kind of truth in the worldview, and that's my issue.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, very broadly.
Soldiers a certain right. Distract.
That's okay.
Not really a philosophy.
Yeah, it's fine.
Used to think that I was until I ran into people like you, Mage, as well as Lulu.
No, like it's not major.
Looking at old war pictures.
I used to watch a lot of Destiny when I was in com and watch Giga Crin.
Maybe I'll post. I'll post it in the stream. I don't know. Probably. Oh no, we got 2 viewers. Okay. Hey, viewers. Important. This thing right here. What is that?
I don't think you're showing anything on stream.
There's a delay. I don't know when.
Bless you.
Maybe that is just a holding it in a very strange way. Yeah, it's straight. It's not.
I see.
Actually, no. Yeah, it's probably an M1. Yeah, it looks like a lot of these French folders. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Why do you want to debate Christian?
Like I said, Like I have a sort of agnostic.
You're picking on poor Christians.
No, no.
Are you?
I am in my demeanor. I am like I would be a really good Christian. I think. I just like
I would be the greatest Christian
it's the best of the best.
if I was to any religion.
Hello, Zulu.
Almost as great as Jesus.
Now we can start the real meeting.
Let's try to start the real stream.
Actually, I should ask Zulu, but I think he's figuring something out.
He's been having.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest incel.
He probably misconfigured his Linux Nix like network manager packages. I'm just gonna trash talk him like that. Hmm. Hmm. I like Christianity generally. I'm not like a anti-Christian. I am very amicable. Is that the word? Towards Christianity. It's just like I don't buy it, but like to me personally, this is the way I conceptualize. I think of all worldviews as religions, and I have a religion that may not be Christianity, but very similar to it, basically.
A deist?
Or you just like
being
be a nice guy.
There's a quote I mean,
the moral law within is.
Yeah. There's a quote I like about religion that you guys might think is a little too much hippie baloney, but it's basically that, I believe in God, but I don't believe in religion. I think that sets up kind of an interesting distinction to be made there. But I think conceptually, the idea of, some type of creator behind, this universe with existence, I think that is a valid concept. But I think once you start going beyond that, and recognizing the possibility of that, start going deeper into it and start making up all these stories and this very complicated, framework, I think that's when you start, your mouth starts writing checks that, you simply can't cash. You can't really back that up. And I think that's where a lot of these that's where virtually all religions, I would say, tend to go off the rails.
I have the opposite view. I don't believe in a God. I believe in a religion. I personally have.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah. And I guess it's like natural.
It's.
I had a friend that once said that basically people like hundreds of years ago would have seen like our attachment, like the non-aggression principle, as like they would have just said, "Oh, they must," or this must be like believing in the.
Yeah, like I mean, if I think about it, right, broadly speaking, I'm not. I do think there are most definitely like religious connotations to, let's say, progressivism, right? That is so clear to me. But I would say I'm not immune to that.
Religion.
Yeah, like I do believe there's a woke religion. I do believe that is the case, but I'm not like.
Pronoun.
If we use religion in this case to mean faith-based, then yes, that's definitely something I would agree with.
Yeah, like but I don't consider myself immune to that. I am also very religious, just like through a different way. I don't believe in the woke religion. I believe in a weird Kantian.
I believe in.
So true. So true. What do you think about transracialism?
I think in a very real sense, leftists kind of believe like an idea of like for their intent, like Clarence Thomas Sowell are they are white.
Yeah.
Whereas literally, I mean, to a certain extent, people who are like well heeled aren't they
Hmm.
they've absolved themselves.
And there's the obvious quote by Joe Biden, the "if you don't vote for me, you ain't black." But I like I've noticed the subtle undertone there, where he says "you ain't black" instead of "you aren't black." It's like he's trying to communicate to a certain portion of the population, and it's like, and to try to appease them. It shows how little he thinks of them, that he's kind of using, this broken grammar, kind of appease to this
No,
population.
I don't
I
like
almost,
that.
I mean, I don't
I don't like
know
that
if
idea.
that's show. I mean, I think like
I could argue I'm reading too deeply into it, but that's just how I perceive it. I think he's kind of playing down and being pretty ignorant.
No, I don't think he's that smart. That's my main
I think it's
problem.
like a reflexive thing. I mean, I literally like this is a common thing, and a lot of people make like Irish people. Well, Irish were, and the Irish have been like extremely powerful position in the Northeast and in New York. Even days of Tammany Hall, political Chicago, the Irish were a very necessary component, and the New Deal coalition. So, like to a certain extent, Biden as like a very Irish Democrat, like he literally like I'm black and like I'm part of this thing, this like up.
I don't know. I don't think much highly of Biden. I really don't think like he's very smart.
He's always been a very. I mean, people think,
Oh,
he's
maybe.
going crazy. He's always been in base politics, very transactional.
Yeah, he's. I don't follow. I don't know. Like I don't think much of Biden. I think
He had
like
a very
it's
embarrassing run. 1980.
It's like I'm kind of sure, right? Like when I didn't. Like I'm sure there's like some shadow government shit, like whatever, deep government, whatever you want to call it. Biden is not smart enough to be a president. I don't believe that. And I don't believe that for Trump either. And it's like two
I think
presidents.
Richard Nixon was the last true intellect, like old school, a deep.
Agree.
I mean,
Wrong, but
Obama, I think, was intelligent. Is not it.
George W. Bush certainly wasn't.
I just can imagine, like I can imagine, Obama being presented certain options and choosing them. I can't imagine though like the same kind of like them having authority with either Trump or Biden. I just cannot see them having that kind of authority.
What do you mean? If I hadn't had breakfast, I had some nice eggs and bacon.
Yeah, I don't believe for one second he's the guy who's really running the whole world right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, is bubblegum gun guy constant of complexity?
I don't know.
I don't know that.
I think this is the guy that we.
Oh, is he talking to me? Like I don't care about evolution. Like I probably think it's.
Yeah,
Like,
my
it seems.
uncle ain't no.
I mean, I probably am to some degree buying into evolution. There seems to be certain things, right? At least I'll say like natural selection seems reasonable, but I don't know like if that's the only thing about evolution. I don't want to make like claims about what has happened before. I don't know. Yeah, That's my take on
I
it.
knew a young Earth creationist, and I once got into it with him because he was saying like abiogenesis possible. I was trying to explain to him like chemicals kind of will like start to replicate. They're like
Mm,
self-replicating, but obviously what eventually became the amino. I did not give it. I
mm,
haven't talked to that guy.
mm.
You know,
So I'm just saying, like, as far as I was listening to a creationist recently talking about how the existence of DNA could be considered an argument for the existence of God, and I was kind of curious what you guys thought of that.
I mean, I need to hear the argument.
I mean, that was sort of the gist of what he said, due to the complexity of it, and he said
Oh,
it seems some type of structure. And question I've always had about religion that I've never seen anybody address, which I think is kind of a big topic here, is how did Jesus's DNA actually work? Because it's like, if you get 50% from one parent and 50% from the other, would he have 50% of Mary's DNA and 50% of God's DNA? That kind
well,
of begs the question: does God have
he
DNA?
could literally have had the 50% DNA from. Might see an
Right, but
argument like,
I mean,
having.
he's not physically. I'm sorry, if he's not biologically the son of Joseph, I'm just curious how that DNA would have arisen.
Well, I mean, like
I,
Well,
God could have just
I,
made it so.
really,
I,
well, we know what's really going on, but
I don't think that's
What's
really
going on here?
important because like couldn't God just like create him without DNA? Is that not like a thing that you?
Sure, but I mean, for Christian, I don't know if all Catholics are. He's fully human. I mean, he would have all the.
Yeah, but like let's say God just crafted a DNA and just bestowed it to him. That's
What
also
I'm saying, and it could have been Joseph, just because there could be. He looks like Joseph, and like having like on a biological, psychological son looked
mm,
like he was good, also scanned.
mhm,
I think we cut out for a second there.
mm.
Was that
It
me?
it said something like our bit rate was low. I don't. Yeah, looks like I didn't. What do you think? Says it again. Recommend that you use audio stream. I don't know. Can you guys hear me? I figure if
I'll
you
check.
guys can hear me, then
Yeah, I can hear you,
I hear you.
but there's a much delay, so I can't tell.
right.
We
Don't
can just
know.
keep talking and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Another thing too about religion is, I mean, it's estimated that,
Yeah.
there are probably billions of, billions with a B of planets within the universe that could potentially sustain, life, intelligent life similar to Earth. And you have the concept of Jesus, and it's like he's supposed to be the only son of God. But what about those other planets? Do they just not get anything? Or do they just get gypped out of it?
Sucks
Good
to be them.
question. People have have theories that like like there can't be like beings with immortal soul as Jesus. Which I mean, I don't necessarily know. I think it kind of. I don't. I mean, obviously, like the church figure out if like aliens really like if Jesus. I don't necessarily. I don't see why. I mean, from my quite limited case, like Jesus only died.
I think like a interesting way I can think of this personally. I'm not a Christian, so I don't want to be like heresy, but whatever. I'm just like guesstimating a response. Personally, if I were a Christian, I would just think like maybe aliens are human, right? Just like not defined by biology human, just like defined by, soul. Like they have human souls, and our duty within as the humans that receive Jesus Christ would be to maybe like spread the gospel or just spread the message of God to other humans around the galaxies or universe.
Spread love.
Perhaps.
It's a Brooklyn.
Yeah, that might be like the duty God bestowed upon us. I don't know. That would
like
be
a pretty big task.
It would kind of make us like the Jew, the real.
So
we'd
true.
Be like God's chosen.
So true.
And then there would be a new alien Jesus who opens the gospel.
I mean, who's to say that the real savior couldn't be somebody from, planet number 583,217,642?
Have you counted?
I don't know. I haven't actually counted. I'm just making up some random number.
You'll see the stupid bit rate is lower than the rest. What song is that? I don't remember.
It's Iggy Smalls. What's that one? A Juicy. It was it was all a dream.
Oh, I love that. It was all a dream. I used to read Reason Man.
I think I'm gonna go.
All right, man. Feel better.
Thank you.
See you, mate.
Get better.
Here.
Yeah. Talk to you guys later. Have a nice stream.
See you. Bye bye. I guess it's just the captain and the corporal now.
I was thinking about how Paladin was good.
Oh, bah. What a bunch of silliness.
I mean, okay. I don't have to necessarily agree. I don't think. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I didn't watch so I can't have. But I do know that. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I have some experience in like moderating debate because I hosted
Yeah, I've seen you host one with Zulu. Yeah, from a while back.
Yeah, and like so.
Okay.
I feel like I don't know.
Well, the thing here is, I feel like I don't think that what really happened in the most recent episode of the podcast was really a debate in the technical sense of the term. I mean, because at the end of it, I just, after going through the whole cross-examination between the people participating, I basically just handed the microphone over to Jorge in this case. Yeah. And allowed him to, speak his views and basically ask us questions. It almost became, went from, my podcast to basically, the Jorge show from that point going forward, which is not something that, and then from there, he kind of started quizzing me as well as Liquid Zulu in that case. So
right,
I wouldn't call
in that sense.
Right. I would say in the technical sense, I would call it a discussion rather than a debate, which I think would give me more license to kind of, insert myself into the conversation in the way that I did, during that episode. So, I mean, overall, I'm proud of the way, that episode turned out. And that's just my stance on it.
I mean, it's important. It's important to I don't think I don't need to be critical. I mean, I'm sure you think watching it, like editing it, oh, maybe I could have asked. Overall,
Yeah.
you put something
I mean,
out, you should feel like
right,
hey,
exactly. But if I had to qualify it as a debate or a discussion, I would say it's a discussion. Admittedly a pointed one, maybe a rigid, structured, organized one, but still a discussion at the end of the day. But that's just my personal take on it. And yes, I do try to be proud of what I put out. And I feel like if putting out anything, once you put a project out, just about anybody could look at any project and say, I could have worked on this, I could have done this better. I think the key really is whenever we release a project, and let's say that we've all put something out and we thought, maybe we could have improved on something in some area. And I'm just speaking in a cosmic general sense. We can always take lessons from that and kind of learn from that and put that going forward in the future. Like, I mean, if I look back at the first episode of the podcast I released, I mean, there's not. If you check on YouTube, there's not even really any video for it. It's just audio. It's kind of something I recorded simply in my bedroom. So, but it's just humble beginnings, as they say. Kind of just trying to work on it, and through trial and error, becoming the improving upon your craft.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's just,
content creation has a lot to do how it feels doing the thing, putting it, and having like a good opinion help you content, which in turn, more experience, better at it. Like, even if you suck, even if your content unironically, if you
right,
keep doing it, you're going to be.
right. I mean, the bottom line is, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Paladin as a person. I think he's a good guy. I would respectfully dispute, some of the criticisms he was making in that case.
Right, and it's fine to people.
So,
People don't always, outsider perspectives, because they. But on the other hand, they don't see everything that was. They don't see the content.
right, exactly. Exactly. So I guess going on from there, so what are you working on for the Springtime Nations channel?
Following this, the Liberty Guild server admin is Argentinian. We already have planned interview. So there's what's called like a in but for a lot of the parties, it's basic. It's like the GOP primaries in. It's basically like an open shut thing, and what you're really looking for is like, right? So the Libertarian Party, um, the primary is going to be a gauge of actual for the Libertarian guy that play. I don't know exactly. MI.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't know how to start with that. I'd say probably Malay or Malay. Who's to say? Tomato. Let's call the whole thing off.
So I'm planning on deal with that guy with and like and tell me like what's going on. Is there really a chance here? Like right now, third, sometimes second in the presidential polling. They'll have like their of it like after primaries, so in August. And I was just thinking, I was kicking around doing a video. The reason bringing this up, this is our. I don't know if I want to make a video about. Okay, so there's this group called the Mapuche. They say they were like the last uh Indians the Americas. Basically, they were independent for like 500. Constantly cutting off every second. Like, it's probably just because it's not close enough. All right, that's annoying. You know what? That was happening with my fucking ear with Mark Vandermoth. Audio was like, just on my end. It was like perfect on. So I don't know.
Well, you sound fine in Discord, but in the stream, it's not good.
It must be an OBS. Oh God, you know what I think it might be? That's those filters that Zulu. I think I have to raise the. Yeah, that must be it, because it's probably like just saying, oh, he must not be talking. Fuck. Yeah, that makes way more sense. Also, hello, Kelbing.
What up, Mr. Shepard?
This is my friend Kelbing. I did the Andor video.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
An ANCAP, great guy. Yeah. Live now. What's going on? Trying to fix my mic right
I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Got some food in the oven at the moment.
Do you cook?
And
or is it
yeah.
Yeah? What you cooking?
Since COVID, yes.
Yeah, fair enough.
Awared myself on how to cook.
Definitely a useful skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you cooking up?
I have some lasagna in the oven, but that's just like a frozen pre-made one. But I also have some steak that is I'm letting it kind of sit in the seasoning in the fridge while I wait as well.
Nice. You got a sous vide?
No.
I actually have one. It's cool.
Sounds like a lot of effort.
No, I mean, you just stick it. I mean, it's supposed to like be like not a lot of effort. I mean, you throw the steak in a bag in water. You kind of let it, and then you turn on the sous vide. You let it. You do it in like the afternoon or the morning or whatever, and you come home and it's like, It's...
Another thing I'm kind of against is like very like narrow use case kitchen appliances that you just have 50 of. Like I want to be able to, if I have like a pan, I can do different things with it. It's versatile. But if I have like a sous vide machine, that's all it does, and it just takes up whatever amount of space it does.
I mean,
and I'm not a fan of that.
It's quite small. I mean, it's a wand. No, I get what you're saying, right? You don't want like a little like use case thing for like every single like thing, but a sous vide is good for like all like beef, or like a chuck steak. It's not just for like the high quality meat. It's any cut of beef basically you can use for it. So it has
but it does the same thing to all of it. You know what I mean?
No, I get you.
So, just out of curiosity, when exactly does preparing food officially become cooking? Because just to give you kind of an idea here, like if we took a look, like I have some pasta from Giovanni Rana, in this case, it's like, so you could argue that, the pasta's there, it's prepared, but it's like you basically still have to like, there's a separate bag, for the pasta. There's a separate bag for the sauce. There's a separate bag for the different kinds of meat that are there. You kind of have to sort those out, put them together, and then cook that. for some time. I don't know if that could officially qualify as cooking, or if in that case, because the ingredients are already essentially given to you through the product itself, if that could really count, or if it's almost something akin to microwaving, for example.
In my opinion, making myself spaghetti and meatballs with pre-made stuff, I don't consider it cooking. Making a lasagna, like where you cook the noodles, you prepare, you do the meat, and then you all put it in the oven together as like a whole thing. I think that would rise to the level of cooking.
Yeah, that's a pretty elaborate process there. Yeah, so I would say so.
But again, this was all prepared in my case.
Yeah, I love me some lasagna.
In my opinion, I have no opinion because this seems like a semantic issue, and I don't really care to.
It's just like what would you like if you were saying you were cooking, or and not to say that you were claiming to be a cook, or like like. But
yes.
like colloquially, if someone asks like, "Oh, are you cooking right now?" I was like, "Oh, I just made some pasta or whatever." If someone asked if I was cooking when I had like lasagna in the oven, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I made a lasagna."
I guess to give a relevant example, I would say cooking is when you, even if like the pasta was pre-made, if you make the sauce yourself, that's cooking.
I would agree with that. I think that's a good. Yeah. Yeah.
Debatably, if the sauce is pre-made, but like you're adding like some ground beef to it or whatever, that could also be considered cooking.
It's kind of fun, it's kind of like in an economics way, the more like the higher order the ultimate consumption is, on the production scale, right? The more steps it takes. Like you cook the meat, then you put it in the casserole. You make the noodles, then you start making the casserole or whatever, the lasagna, the whatever, the cake, right? Like the higher or the higher order, the more and more time and effort it takes to make the thing, the more like cooking it becomes.
There are certain actions in the process that I think we can say if they're involved, it becomes cooking. Like if you're using if you require a bag of flour, one could say, okay, that's cooking. If you need a measuring cup, one could say, okay, you're cooking. If you have to break a certain amount of eggs, that could be considered cooking. Unless we're talking about maybe an omelet or something like that. I mean but even then, you could potentially consider an omelet, although omelet's pretty straightforward and simple. But if these things are there, I think any process involving that, we could call that cooking for all intents and purposes.
I mean, certainly if you're making your own, like if you're using flour not just as a thickening agent, but to like make like bread or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That would obviously be cooking.
Preparing the dough and things like that.
Which is kind of fun. I mean, you could make a very simple bread, and then you can be like, "Ooh, I made bread." Whereas you can spend a longer amount of time using all like pre-made stuff, and that would be considered less like quote unquote making from scratch.
Yes, you haven't really homesteaded the bread.
Right. Yeah, you haven't made it your own. It's fun to add throw in little things, stuff that isn't like on the tin, even if you make like a microwave thing. Not to hate on microwaves. Microwave is a great invention.
Right. Yes. I mean, they're convenient. Pretty quick. Yeah. There's more of a sense of ownership, I think, when it comes to the oven, in terms of cooking.
Yeah, it's kind of a labor theory of value thing, almost, right?
Is it? Yes. Yes, labor theory of property, and that's yeah.
It's like, oh, it took me 3 hours to make this, whereas like, I mean, maybe if Mr. Kelbing instead chose to throw his in the microwave, right, for 8 minutes, that's not cooking.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, great culinary excursion we had there.
Yeah.
Morgan,
Yes, sir.
not to dox you, this is your own choice, but I believe you live in a state with fairly strict gun laws. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Do you own
Indeed.
one?
Do I own one?
Yeah.
I would. Yeah. So we do own one in the family bedroom. Well, my folks' bedroom. I know there's something under the bed. So if anybody's thinking of breaking in, they could very well have something else. They could have something coming to them they didn't expect.
Bet. That's based.
Yeah, we used to have like an automatic rifle too. I remember we used to compare it to it. So, well,
Like a machine gun?
No, not like that. Not like that. Not like that. No, not that.
Semi-autos.
Semi-auto. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's from a very gun-deprived state when he refers
Yes,
to
I'm not.
Damn.
and he's not talking about a PAR.
Yeah, ignore me. I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, we used to have like this gun where you could very well fire off more than one bullet with one squeeze of the trigger.
So it is full auto.
Wait. Was it bump stocked, or what? Are you talking about you had like an NFA registered, or maybe not? But you had something where you could shoot. You would, if you held down the trigger, more bullets would keep firing until you took your finger off the trigger.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I mean, it's like, I want to state for the record, I know nothing about guns. I am not saying anything here to incriminate myself. I am just simply saying, what I have heard in a third hand, sense. I mean, I was not personally the one using these firearms.
Well, the assumption would always be that that the person involved was like acting within the realm of the law.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
And the guns exist in Minecraft.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do guns exist in Minecraft? Okay, yeah, but tell your story.
So yeah, we had this phantom gun. We used to take it out. We used to take it out to a family friend. Went out in the back and shot at some targets with it. It was a fun time. So basically, on the way back, from this trip, my dad's dump truck, we were on the way back and just completely broke down, like just completely shut down. So it's like we were stuck in another city, like with all these guns and in the back seat. So it was kind of an awkward position, but it all worked out in the end. But yeah, long story short, yes, we do have some firearms. I mean, my state's not going to stop me from exercising that, even though I'm completely ignorant of guns, as I've demonstrated here.
It's funny, Kelbang. I was looking at some pictures from the Korean War. I was trying to find out if the French used their post-war semi-auto rifles in the Korean War. I didn't find anything definitive, but I know what like an M1 carbine looks like, for example, right?
Yeah.
So there's this picture of French troops. I posted on the stream and I didn't get. No one knew. But I think this might be just an M1 carbine. But it could. Be
don't have that open right now. But
no. I sent it. I sent it in our chat.
Okay.
I think that's a carbine, especially with that big flash suppressor.
Potentially.
It's got
that it's kind of hard to tell with the quality of the photo.
Yeah, and the way he's holding it too, right?
Yes, that's another big thing. So, what are you getting at with that?
Oh, just because we were talking about guns, and I was literally like, someone on Twitter was posting about like, oh, I didn't know there were so many like different troops in Korea, and I mentioned that in the Korean War,
so like French troops.
Well, these are French troops in the Korean War, but there was Turks, there was Belgians, there was Ethiopians. You know, the UN security for like there was like 50 different countries sent stuff, and because of that, the precursor to the FAL was used by the Dutch, Belgian, and Luxembourg troops.
Yes.
And then you had obviously the Garand and the Carbine, and there's
And
some,
the M14.
not in the M14 comes in 57, so this is after Korea.
Ah. Interesting.
And there's some sources that claim the MAS 49, which is the French semi-auto rifle that came out right after the war. It was actually designed right before the war. The war happened, and the French actually hid the design from the Nazis, so that they couldn't have a semi-auto rifle. But right after the war, it started being produced. It's like the MAS 44, like when Paris was liberated, they were like, okay, now we can get to work. And then finally, it was adopted in 49. So it was adopted in 49. Korea obviously happens in 50, goes on till 53, and there's some sources that say that the MAS was used in the war, but I just have not found any proof of it. Prex James says, "I love American gun culture."
But yes, that was a very neat, semi-fully 3/4 automatic, pistol.
3/4 automatic.
Yeah. I miss it too. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you can always move to a free state. I still have to get a gun. I finally got my driver's license, which means, it's way easier to prove residency in my state. So I can get a gun, although we have an annoying thing where the sheriff has to sign off on you owning a pistol, which is annoying because I definitely do want to have a pistol.
And the thing is, honestly, globally, as far as gun laws, American gun laws aren't even that bad compared to other countries.
And since DC versus Heller, in what was it, 2011 or whatever, even in like bad gun states, it's still not that bad. You know what I mean? Like you can get a gun, at least if you live outside a city. And now with that more recent ruling where it was like unconstitutional for New York City to ban it, like
Bruin.
There's yeah, that's right. There's never been a better time for American gun laws.
Yeah, admittedly, I'm not I wouldn't call myself like a gun fanatic or anything. It's never seemed more like a hobby to me. I just see it mainly as a means of defense in this case, which I'm probably making clear through my ignorance of of guns and how they work. I'm almost sounding like one might say like a liberal,
like a libtard.
Yeah, exactly.
Your parents are conservative?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, my mom is a typical boomer. Kind of just goes along with what the Democratic parties are saying. When it's election time, she'll just vote for whoever's not Trump. My father's deceased, but he was kind of a libertarian, in stance, I would say.
Epic.
Yeah, he had some policy. Like he was somebody kind of just easygoing. I remember him saying, in the 2008 election, he was going to vote for, John McCain originally, and then after hearing him talk about peace with honor, during the presidential debates, he was like, He decided to begrudgingly go with Obama at that point. And then in 2012, he just voted for Romney at that point because he wasn't going to vote for Obama at that point. Certainly not.
Okay, he wasn't a Ron Paul guy in 2008 or 12?
No, I wouldn't say he was. No. When I say libertarian, I'm using that in kind of a loose term.
I mean,
yeah, a very loose term, admittedly. I think a conservative would probably maybe a more apt description typically. But I don't know. I never saw either of my parents as that political. Overall. Yeah, I kind of just came to libertarianism on my own, really.
Yeah. My parents are both very liberal. Love them to death, but my dad claims to be politically independent, but he's basically he's a liberal, except in like emergency situations. Like he's a banker, and there was like a senator that was like doing something he didn't like that was a Democrat, so he voted Republican. And this was like in 2008 or whatever, and that's like the last time he voted for Republican on any level. I mean, he's very much like of the Democrat sensibility. And my mom is like just another level. Like she's like the in this house. Literally have this like my childhood home as the in this house we believe Black Lives Matter, etc., etc.
Oh.
Isn't it crazy? And I'm referring to your dad, like with the whole voting thing, that one can come so close to just the libertarian, or even just like the general like disillusionment of the great political illusion, and yet just fall so short.
Yeah, my dad's like a big fan of Bill Maher, and that's like a really good way to like categorize Bill Maher, because he's like like I'm a rationalist. We need to cut through all this BS, or and Democrats are wrong a lot of time. But then when you ask him about like, okay, so I mean, what's the alternative? It's just like, oh, we just need to elect the right Democratic president or whatever.
I will add, I will add I know my dad was a big fan of Ross Perot back in the day. One could argue he was kind of an underrated, political candidate there.
Honestly, in my opinion, Ross Perot was like the worst of both worlds.
Really?
He had he bundled social conservatism with like fiscal leftism. Like he really was very like okay, and because he was like an insane person, he would like just randomly support like what do you call it, like policies that like happen to be like good or like more libertarian. But the dude ultimately he was do you remember the quote unquote shortest, the Nolan chart, right? You know about the Nolan chart?
I'm not personally well informed on Ross Perot myself. I don't know much about what he was doing.
Okay, but
same.
Yeah, but the hell yeah.
That was completely unrelated. Please don't let that distract from the conversation.
Hell to the fuck yeah. But okay, the Nolan chart has that like there's like a populist like quadrant that's like in like down in the middle. And like Ross Perot occupies that one where it's like he's interventionist in both ways. He's not like in the Nolan chart, liberals are inconsistent, right? On liberty. They believe in personal liberty, but not economic liberty, and then conservatives are the opposite, right? And then just like the populist axis, it's like they're bad on both. And Ross Perot, not to say like all self-described populists are this, but Perot was 100% like just like we need mass redistribution, but also like we need to restrict people's civil liberties.
Oh man!
I will say something nice about Ross Perot though. I visited Dallas a couple years ago, and he founded a museum of like science or whatever. Great museum, the Ross Perot Museum in Dallas. Very nice.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really been too interested. I admittedly don't really follow the political game that closely. I mean, I recognize how the mechanism of the state really works. So when I see a lot of these candidates, they don't seem to grab my attention that much. especially when we're going back, certain decades to somebody like Ross Perot, a third-party candidate who didn't really, for all intents and purposes, he didn't accomplish that much. He didn't really get very far. He didn't really advance much of a cause. So I'm personally not very informed on him, in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since that was before my time, too. I mean, I wasn't even born at that point.
Listen, as old of a head as I am, Ross Perot was definitely before my time. I know one of my friend group is old enough to have voted for Pat Buchanan in 2000. That's my old. That's an old head for me. I'm the old head for most of our group, but that dude is a real old head, a real zombie.
I mean, he'd have to be at least in his 40s.
Yes. Now, yes. Yeah. Recently turned 40. Crazy, yo.
Oh, yeah. So, Adrian, with such, leftist liberal parents, how did you get into, the libertarianism in the first place? How long would you say you've considered yourself one?
The Ron Paul 2012 campaign in 2011, I would not have said I was a libertarian, but I was getting into the ideology, and then by 2012, I would definitely have called myself a libertarian.
Okay, neat. What did you consider yourself prior to that point?
Do you remember the zeitgeist thing?
Oh. Okay.
Do you know about what's his name, Peter Joseph, and like zeitgeist and all that?
Yeah, Peter Joseph. It was zeitgeist.
Okay, so for a long time I was like, I thought my parents were broadly right about everything. I trusted them, whatever, and I was kind of a liberal, and I actually started getting into like kind of like socialism, like kind of like progressive like era, like I was really into Bob Dylan, and then I got into the Broadside. The Broadside magazine was like a left wing socialist magazine in the 1960s. I don't know if you know the guy, the singer songwriter Phil Oakes.
Not familiar with him.
He was. Let me think. He had a very famous song. Oh yeah, "Love Me, I'm a Liberal," and it's pointed out like the hypocrisy of liberals in the '60s, but from a left wing perspective. And he kind of he and like a lot of like the Broadside like people kind of pushed me into like socialism, and then I saw the original Zeitgeist movies, and that got me into like. Eventually, I mean, it was basically like anarcho-communism. It was anti-authoritarian, but it was obviously like redistributionist / like futurist stuff. Although it also introduced me to like Alex Jones, and I remember being like 14, being afraid like the United States would literally like put like me in a FEMA camp. It was just kind of fun. Like, it was funny, Alex Jones for a while had a lot of overlap with left wing conspiracy theories. Like, people don't really remember that when he basically like one of his big theses in the 2000s was that like America had basically through Operation Paperclip that the U.S. government was basically run by Nazis. Right, like the people and then the sons and grandsons of the SS were like running things, and we had like an authoritarian Nazi government, which had a lot of cachet with like left wing dudes, like LaRouchists, in 2000s. Like Alex Jones was not a persona non grata among the left at the time, but anyway, so yeah, I was kind of like an Alex Jones ANCOM. Then when I got more into like internet culture, I happened to run into a dude that was like was an ANCAP, and he kind of like walked me through, like he said something, he said like taxation was theft, and I was like, how could it possibly be theft? And he like walked me through the steps, and I was like, oh,
Oh, so that's how.
yeah, yeah, like I don't really, yeah, I get, yeah, I guess taxation is theft, yeah. And then I started, yeah, getting more into like libertarian philosophy, like especially through Stefan Molyneux, who was huge at the time, 2011, 2012.
Oh yeah, that's true. I was just talking with somebody recently, personally about how their entry into libertarianism was through Stefan Molyneux.
So many
I remember
people, so many
way back in the day.
He was like a giant, and now he's just like people don't even talk about him anymore.
'Cause I remember when the actor, what's his name, Paul Walker, was killed. I remember that was he made a video in response to that. That was my first introduction to him, talking about how basically his relationship with his wife or something, some type of romantic problems were behind his death. I'm not really following his logic there, but in any case, that was just the first thing I stumbled across from him, and then from there, I kind of started going down that rabbit hole of seeing more and more of Molyneux's videos.
Molyneux being an objectivist, or at least objectivist influence, is kind of interesting because a lot of his stuff is based on like, yeah, if your philosophy is like anti-reality, it's like self-destruct. Your self-destruction is like guaranteed, and it kind of, and this isn't like, I don't want to be like I'm attacking Zulu in this, but like it kind of sounds like the kind of arguments that Zulu's making. Not to say that it's necessarily wrong, but I will say it's sort of like not necessarily like, generally speaking, the general person, believes that like, okay, like just because you believe something doesn't necessarily like you have to like 100% live it out or whatever, right? Like Molyneux's made videos where he's talked about like Marx, and because Marx is like was depraved on a personal level, that his philosophy was flawed, and that seems like a very kind of objectivist take. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Seems like a borderline ad hominem, even.
Yeah, I mean, it borders on like you can couch it as far as you want, like being like, I'm not saying necessarily. I'm just observing that, like if you have like a bad relationship with your parents, with society, with your spouse or whatever, your philosophy is going to be like self-destructive or something like that. And I don't know. It's a very objectivist way of looking at the world.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, he was talking about Stefan Molyneux being the entry into objectivism. This person I was talking with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, Adrian. So would you consider yourself an objectivist by any means?
I had and here's the thing: the guy that got me into anarcho-capitalism was also into Ayn Rand. I read I read Atlas Shrugged. I still adore the book. I really do think it's one of the best books, at least for like political philosophy, ever written. Even when I was getting into it, like because I became an ANCAP after I became an objectivist, I was very critical of objectivism, and ultimately I didn't feel like, okay, so, well, I will say, something that kind of kept me interested in objectivism is I got into this this fantasy series called Sword of Truth by Terry Goodkind, and he is an objectivist. And I was reading it at a time in my life that it was sort of like what I needed. A lot of it, like, it was like uplifting. I was like, you know, a man has to take control of his own destiny and stuff like that. Like, which, like, I thought, like, it really did speak to me in that way. They're pretty well written books. I mean, he made like 12 of them or whatever, and the first like 8 are really good. And then there's some decline. I wouldn't say that like even like the worst one is like bad, but really like the first one is like really good. But yeah, I would say I had an objectivist phase in my life, and now obviously becoming Catholic, which I've done in the past 3 years, that's kind of alienated me from like that kind of like selfishness is good, and man needs to live only for himself. Like, I've kind of been more interested in like self-sacrifice as a virtue rather than as like something that's evil.
I could see that. You think it could be argued that the character Rorschach from Watchmen could be considered an objectivist symbol in a sense? I know he's based off. I'm a bit of a comic book follower. I know he's based off of Mr. A, who was created by, I believe it was Steve Ditko. I want to look up something from that.
And that guy was an objectivist, wasn't it?
He was an objectivist, yes. Yes, it was Steve Ditko, and Steve Ditko was an objectivist. I know he was using that character in turn as kind of a mouthpiece for some of his objectivist beliefs. And I know that since that character directly inspired Rorschach, I was wondering if, therefore, we could conclude that Rorschach is in turn, some objectivist character.
Well,
friends, the furnaces yearn for me. I will see you later.
All right, man.
See.
Maybe I'll be back at some point and you'll still be doing this. We shall see.
Honestly, probably. Enjoy your lasagna.
See you.
All right. What was I saying? Right. So you can definitely see an objectivist angle of like, especially Rorschach's death. Right. He's dying for truth. Right. Although, in a way. Well, from a Fountainhead kind of perspective, I guess you can see. Yeah, it's more Fountainhead than Atlas Shrugged, and I don't know if Zulu would agree with me, but I feel like Fountainhead objectivism is different than Atlas Shrugged objectivism. Atlas Shrugged is a little more polished, but that might not be a good thing. Fountainhead is very romantic. And the idea of like dying for your beliefs would definitely be in line with Howard Rourke. Whereas for like John Galt, kind of dying pointlessly, defiantly, would not be in line with the feeling of Atlas Shrugged. But nonetheless, I mean, I definitely think there's objectivist themes to Rorschach's character.
Right. Yeah, I would see that.
Indeed, yeah. When I was talking about like that Sword of Truth series, so the Sword of Truth is wielded by the Seeker of Truth, and he has like there's like a magical character to him. Like, he can only let me it's like he can't kill someone that he thinks is innocent or something like that. Like, they're like, the Seeker is supposed to be like this kind of like uber law enforcement. Like, he doesn't have like, he is like the ultimate arbitrator of disputes, because he's like, if he kills someone innocent, he like dies instantly or something like that.
Interesting premise.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't really follow video games that much.
Oh, it's a book.
Oh, it's a book. Okay, that makes more sense. Sword of Truth. I never heard of that one. I gotta look this up actually. Oh,
It's
novels
actually,
here. Okay,
it's
awesome.
funny. It's funny. He's
Oh yeah, that's right. You were mentioning this earlier. Yeah, the Terry
he's
Goodkind.
incredibly successful. But I think normies like it. You know what I mean? Like, normies like him and don't understand they they internalize it in other ways or whatever. But he's not like, I'm an objectivist and this is the objectivist book. It's like
Right.
he's like subtly an objectivist, and people really like his books.
Okay, this is pretty neat. I feel like, knowing me, I would constantly get this guy confused with Terry Pratchett.
Great creator. Definitely not a libertarian. Although you get, I mean, there's British leftists actually often Monty Python has like a libertarian streak to it because it's so anti bureaucracy. I mean, think about, have you ever seen the movie Brazil?
I know of it. I've seen parts of it.
It's really libertarian, and it was made by the guy that did most of the animation for
Yeah,
Flying
Terry
Circus.
Gilliam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I often say Terry Gilliam is just the smart man's Tim Burton,
True.
in a sense.
True. Big fan. I've seen a lot of his movies. Not all of them are like libertarian themed or whatever, but I always enjoy them. The Time Bandits, Kingfisher, and of course,
Yeah, it's good.
Brazil is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Nice. I have to check the movie out. I have heard a lot of good things about it.
Another Terry, by the way, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. So many Terrys. Yeah, we're up to 3 Terrys now. Mm. Oh yeah. See, I'm trying to think of other libertarian, works in fiction.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
it's there if you look, especially in science fiction. That really used to be our thing, is we would make science fiction. Like Snow Crash, or The Moon is a Harsh Mistress.
Oh yeah.
What's
Good
his
old.
name?
How do you pronounce it? His name's around Timeline, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's the German pronunciation. Yeah, Heinlein.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know the big 3 is Asimov, Clark, and I thought it was Heinlein, but I didn't know how to pronounce it exactly.
Yeah, it's literally just like the most shit-lib idiots of all time, or libertarians.
Right.
You don't get anyone else.
Right. Exactly.
The guy
Yeah.
who made Dune.
Frank Herbert.
He has. I would not say he's a libertarian in the same way that Heinlein is. However, he has interest in politics from what I looked into. I think he is basically a conservative of some kind. It's been a while since I looked into this.
I want to say for the record, I really hate the way the political, this political binary is presented. People often very reductively posit it as, the left wants change, the right, liberals want to change things, they want to improve society, whereas conservatives just want everything to stay exactly the same. They want to suppress change. I think that's, woefully inaccurate in any case, because right now, if you look at society, you can see often, the right is very much trying to enact some type of change on society.
Yeah.
So anyway, where I'm going with this point, back to, this whole topic of Dune and all, I feel like a lot of the psychology behind leftist thought is the idea that only people who are liberals or, on the left side, the Democrat, essentially, they're the only people who can actually be creative in this sense. And that anybody who's on the right or conservative simply cannot. And they'll point to these Trumpist artists, such as Kid Rock or what's his name, Ted Nugent, who are just terrible, really. and they'll kind of use that to reinforce their claims.
It's so funny that people like literally like conservatives have to pretend that Ted Nugent is like some like musical god. He fucking sucks.
He does, yes. And so does Kid Rock. I mean, people have to accept that.
Okay, wait. Hold on. Baudadaba is great.
I mean, he's got.
And there was one that like he released like 2 years ago or something, where it's literally, and okay, I suppose to a certain extent there's kind of like an irony enjoyment, but I can't ironically enjoy Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent sucks. Kid Rock I can enjoy ironically. There was one where there was like a fucking like song that he released and it was like, America, you can't tell me what to do. It's like, I can dig it.
Right. I mean, I guess the larger point of what I'm trying to make here is that people who are on the right side of politics are thought that, they can't be creative, which I think is completely false, especially considering the left is the one who are, they're the ones who are really pushing for censorship, I would say, in a much more direct and, widespread manner than, the people on the right, in this political sense. But that's really why I'm drawn to libertarianism, because I think that's that's a good, third option in any case. You can kind of look beyond this, very flawed, binary, dichotomy that people are presenting of how politics works essentially in America. I just don't think it's accurate to kind of say that, only the left is really exploring new ideas. When in reality, a lot of it I think is just built in, rooted in groupthink anyway, on the left side of politics, and on the right too, to an extent. I would say I wouldn't rule that out either. Basically, long story short, the bottom line of what I'm saying here is I believe that artistic creation does not necessarily know one political ideology. Really, it could be all across the political spectrum.
Yeah. Okay, I did find an interesting quote, and I think I saw this quote when I was looking into Frank Herbert. But Frank Herbert says, all governments suffer a recurring problem. Power attracts pathological personalities. It is not power that corrupts, but that it is magnetic to the corruptible. Such people have a tendency to become drunk on violence, a condition to which they are quickly addicted. And if that ain't really the basis of like libertarian opposition to authoritarianism.
Yeah, you were reading, I was thinking, like, this is my favorite selection from Democracy, the God That Failed.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I mean, he gets it in probably, Heinlein, great author, made some great stuff, seemed to sort of understand, like, the ideas of libertarianism, get off my lawn libertarianism. But
right.
This insight is way closer to kind of like intellectual libertarianism, right? That it is not simply that like governments go too far sometimes, but that governments inherently go too far. That they always will.
Right, exactly. It's just, by their very nature. I mean, I think, obviously, Rothbard is owed, a great deal of thanks, for his influence on the libertarian movement. And I think prior to him, it wasn't nearly as organized or, it didn't have nearly as clear of a goal in mind until, he came along and made his contributions.
He really is the great man of libertarianism. And anyone who attacks him for being less than he could have, I mean, I don't think ultimately if you're too concerned about the flaws of Rothbard rather than his great achievements, you're not going to make it.
Right. I mean, Rothbard, as far as I'm concerned, I know this some people might think this is kind of melodramatic, but I would say that he is, a hero essentially for what he's accomplished, world, in the grand scheme of things. I think that, it just seems like
1,000 years from now, there will be statues to Rothbard.
I would certainly hope so, yes. I certainly hope that there are. Like I'm often saying, like, society will be in a much better place when we spend less time when people are talking about Mises and Rothbard more than they're talking about Trump and Biden. I think the world's gonna be in a much better position then.
Yeah.
Because I just like going back. Like I remember, like back when Trump was first elected. I mean, I couldn't go 1 hour without hearing that guy's name come up, and it was just like I was just after all, I got so sick of hearing the guy's name all the time. Especially, I mean, I look at politics as basically just one big distraction in a sense, and I would say to a great extent it is. But it's like, I mean, just hearing people complaining about this guy or people trying to defend him, it's like I just thought it was just a very dumb game. In this case, just listening to people go back and forth, fighting over something that wasn't really that important in the first place. I mean, you may very well disagree with me. You may think that this is a very big topic, but I just think I just think both Trump and Biden are talked about way too much in society. Really, it's just not a very good. It's just I don't think it's all that worth it as a conversation topic. Just this politician or that politician.
Yeah, fundamentally, I mean, there's kind of like a term for this. It's South Park has, I think, maybe the better one, where it's like, like to replace the mascot, right? It's like the turd sandwich and the douche, right? It's like, why do we need to change the mascot? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, I know there's the quote. I think it's often, frequently misquoted or taken out of context. The religion is the opiate of the masses. You could just as easily, I would say politics is the opiate of the masses too.
Yeah,
saying that.
And certainly a lot of people think about politics the same way that like normies think about sports.
Exactly. Yeah.
And some people become like those guys that like know like all like the like NFL stats, right? It's like a god. I mean, especially if you spend a lot of time on Twitter, you find like quote unquote election Twitter, and it's like these dudes like paint maps of like how like how they think an election is going to go based on like it's like touch grass, bro. Like none of this matters. Like literally, like I mean, this is literally just two like gangs fighting over territory. It's so funny. Like the thing about sports that's like uplifting and transcendental is it's men like exercise like they're trying to reach like athletic perfection, right? You
Right.
pitch the perfect game, you hit the grand slam, stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Like politics, it's literally just like coercing and like bribing and like begging people enough so that you can take power. Like it's the most base of human instincts.
Exactly. Like in sports, you can have a happy ending, but in politics, you can't. Right. The way I'd probably sum it up.
Even the losers can be like, we played a great game, we did our best, you guys are better. We're going to come back. This is going to be our motivation to do better than you, and it leads to this like this incentive where it's like for athletic perfection, which is a great virtue. It's a great thing to be able to be at your peak physical performance. In politics, it's like, we didn't lie enough, we didn't bribe people enough, we didn't use the state in the correct way to get people to vote for us. It's such a base.
Exactly. It's like, let's regroup, try to lie and steal more for the next election cycle.
Yeah.
Like,
don't worry, friends. We got some great plans to yeah. Yeah. Politics is it's so ignoble, and everyone knows it, right? There's like an inherent understanding from everyone from someone who makes $5,000 a year to someone who makes $5 million a year, that politicians are literally scumbags, right?
Yes.
And they kiss babies, and then they hire hookers, and they're just. I mean, they're like.
It's like we all know it, but very few people are going to actually actually follow through on that with any consistency. Like a lot of people will say, like, "Oh, they know full well that these politicians are corrupt," but they'll still be on social media, tweeting in favor of one, saying, urging people to vote for this one politician. This is the one. This is the one that's going to make our lives better. You want, like some college girl telling you vote for whoever the Democratic candidate is. You've got like that angry middle-aged guy down the street in the pickup truck telling you to vote for whoever the Republican candidate is. And it's like either way, I don't think. I just think either option is just not good. I mean, if you're choosing the lesser of two evils, you're still choosing evil. I often say, like, when somebody asks you to choose between the lesser of two evils, the choices themselves cease to matter, and then the focus becomes on, you should be focusing on the mechanism that is forcing you to choose between two evils in the first place, and trying to correct that. Because if you're being presented with two evils, there has to be something wrong behind the scenes. That's just my take.
Yeah, people kind of get gaslit. Maybe it's the right word. Maybe it's not. But I mean, yeah, they. I mean, people have so much power. You know what I mean? They ultimately they have the power to choose. Like we could end this tomorrow if there was a popular will, because ultimately, like. American troops are not gonna sure they'll fire on Virginia if it tries to secede, but they're not gonna once it's everywhere, it's gonna be like the collapse of the Soviet Union, right? But it only takes people living their virtues. Right? People saying, I don't consent to what you're doing.
Right, exactly. Very true. So, here, I don't know, going back to this whole idea of like people, buying too much into politics, have you ever seen that video of Steven Pinker and Rebecca Goldstein, doing this stupid dance, after, Biden won the election, won in quotation marks.
Wait,
in
do
2020.
they literally dance?
Yes, it was very.
Were they whipping and nay-naying?
I gotta pull up that video for you. Actually, let me add that to the chat here.
Yeah, sure.
This I gotta show you. Here it is. It's just, I lost a lot of respect, especially when you see. Also, I didn't realize too until recently that Steven Pinker, he was an associate of Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
And there are plenty of photos of him on that island.
Yeah.
I feel like of the people who go there, he doesn't catch much, attention for that, but he was there. Yeah, I'm just watching this thing. It's I'm not liking the looks of this video.
Oy vey.
That Steven Pinker's got some moves, though. I gotta tell you.
He got that moves like Pinker. Okay, I haven't seen it yet. This is my genuine reaction.
Okay, so this should be good.
Who's Rebecca Goldstein?
I have no idea. I just assumed she was his wife, but I just saw that since they mentioned her name, it might have been somebody more important.
I mean, if she was his wife, it'd be Rebecca Pinker, right?
Right, yeah. American, I was Googling philosopher. Well, she was married to Steven. She is married to Steven Pinker, yes.
Okay, she's one of those. She's one of those
Right. Which should tell you a lot right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she ain't even hyphenating it. She's just straight up. She's like, we ain't doing that. Only my father's Okay, you know what? I'm opposing the patriarchy. Okay, your name, it's got nothing to do with me. My paternal grandfather's name is way more important to me as a feminist. As a feminist, my paternal grandfather's name, or like literally my father's name, is far more important.
Right. So it's like it doesn't even make sense, really.
Like most feminist things, doesn't make sense. Oh, nice.
You're just putting this
I got
dance video in
confirmation
context.
for Barbieheimer.
Oh, what about Barbieheimer?
Oh, my friend says he's down for my I proposed an itinerary, and he
watch them both in one day. Okay.
Yep. So Oppenheimer, 6:00. It's a 3-hour movie. We get out. We can stretch our legs. We can go out for a little, have kind of like an intermission. 9:50, Barbie. We get out at midnight. It's the perfect plan.
Yeah. I'm too ashamed to say that I'm going to watch Barbie, but I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to watch it anyway. I just don't want to say it.
Are you Barbieheimer pilled?
Yeah, I'll watch both. I definitely plan on watching both movies.
I mean, ideally, you watch both on the same day.
Oh,
that's what we're doing.
That's one way to do it. I don't know if they'll necessarily be both in the same day. I kind of want to watch Oppenheimer deliberately on August 6th.
That would be yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. And just one opinion I want to put out there, and I know this is going to be very controversial, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but I think that Christopher Nolan is an overrated director.
Of course, he's an overrated director, but he's a good director.
Yes, he is. It's just that a lot of his career is built upon The Dark Knight. And that whole Batman trilogy in itself, I would say a lot of that is built on Heath Ledger's, Joker in this case. If you take Heath Ledger's Joker out of those movies and look at them without him, they become significantly less good. And I know people aren't going to like to hear that, but I'm saying, like, you cannot deny that he was the cornerstone of those movies, as far as performance.
But Nolan picked him.
I mean, you say he picked him. It's like, what does he want? A finder's fee? I mean,
casting is an important thing. If you basically just admitted yourself. Casting is it can literally be decisive over whether or not a film is good or bad, right? So a director who has discretion over that kind of thing, he deserves some kind of credit, right?
I'm definitely saying he deserves credit. I mean, I enjoy Memento. I enjoy a lot of Christopher Nolan's work. I think, he does deserve credit, but I think that a lot of, the credit for his career, really comes down to simply Heath Ledger's Joker, which in turn was the foundation of the Batman trilogy, which in turn was the foundation of Nolan's career. I mean, yes, obviously, Nolan does deserve credit, like you're saying, for casting him and choosing him. But I think, a lot of Nolan's own role in that, I think tends to get overstated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, going back to the Steven Pinker dance video, I mean, there's a part of it that's just sad. I remember when the election first happened, and seeing that video get shared, I thought, oh man, what are these people thinking uploading this to the internet? Not particularly skilled with the moves.
I'm literally him. I'm literally him.
Yeah, I shouldn't judge, honestly, because I'm probably not much of a better dancer myself.
I'm definitely not a better dancer than Mr. Steven Pinker.
And overall, though, I mean, even beyond, I think Oppenheimer and Barbie will both be very good movies. I mean, I hope. I mean, Barbie could be kind of a mixed bag, honestly.
All around, there's a good chance Barbie just sucks ass.
Yeah, there's a good chance of that. Yes, that could be very disappointing. Like that one, I feel like there's not going to be any real middle ground with that. Like I feel like it's going to either be really good or really bad. I suppose it could just be meh at the same time. It could just be a movie at the end of the day.
It could be mixed, for sure.
I mean, yeah, it seems like a lot of movies coming out lately. I don't want to sound negative, but it's like a lot of them just aren't that good, especially that they're putting out in theaters. I didn't waste my time watching the Indiana Jones movie, but I hear that one's nothing to brag about either.
Yeah. I did watch, and this is the first movie, well, the second movie I've seen this year. Sound of Freedom.
Ooh, yes.
That one's a fucking gangbuster.
That's a good movie?
Yes. It's well made, great score. I find the message good, which obviously helps with my evaluation of the movie. It's good. I was recommending it to my friends, but my friends have children and say like, I'm glad it's great, but I'm just never gonna see it because it's just gonna make me
maybe too exciting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean that is a movie I do want to watch that movie. I'm surprised why there's so much controversy behind it, why it's so politicized. I mean, the way I see it, you've got the left versus the right in politics, and a lot of them tend to fight with each other. And it seems like whenever the right gets behind something, the left has almost this knee-jerk reaction to get behind it.
I mean,
but the problem,
if you think about it, I mean, it's literally like it's made by Hispanics. It talks about like Hispanic countries and like a guy that like, okay, literally the U.S. government refuses to help a Hispanic country, and then the guy goes and does it anyway. Like, I mean, there's a lot of like angles here for like, like a left wing message of like we need to have solidarity with Latin America. We can't just turn our backs on what's going on because like they're doing these horrible things, etc. there. And not that I necessarily obviously think like the United States should be like intervening or whatever, but like, I mean, the spirit is, I mean, he's risking his life for like these kids from Honduras who are in Colombia. Like it's like,
right.
like a racist KKK, like why would they support this? Like, like a racist would just say, "Who cares?"
Right. Exactly. I mean, like I'm saying, it's like a lot of the time, if the left sees the people who are on the right supporting something, it's like, well, then we have to oppose it. It's like the problem with this case is we're legitimately talking about child trafficking here. It's like, I mean, you can't come out in favor of child trafficking just to spite people you don't like who are against it. I mean,
but apparently they can.
Yeah, apparently they're finding a way.
Life
it's like,
finds a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do want to watch that movie. It looks well made. It looks pretty good. I mean, it's just
the score is, I think, my favorite part.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of I mean, I know Hollywood isn't really on board with it, but we know about Hollywood, how things are done over there.
It's made so much money. It's $10 million movie. As far as the last I heard, it's made $80 million box office.
Wow, not bad. That's a very good profit, right?
Yeah, that's a great one. And I mean, they literally have like Jesus from Passion of the Christ being like, if you have the means, pay it forward. Make sure it's not not being able to afford a ticket that stops someone. Like there's
Right.
literally like at the end of the movie, there's like there's like a money pitch or whatever, and apparently it's like thousands of people have gotten tickets like for free through this for people paying for their tickets to see it, which I
That's
mean
cool.
I don't know an equivalent of this, especially on this scale, like literally just like all over the United States, like people applying
Yeah.
for like free tickets and getting them because people have paid for tickets already.
Exactly. It's
I'm
like,
tempted to do it as well. I mean, it's obviously like I care about like child trafficking or whatever in an abstract sense. In the same way, like I care about like slavery or war or whatever. But
right.
like realistically speaking, I'm a dude who lives in the first world. I'm very isolated from this kind of thing. I have my own like bills to pay, whatever. Right? You know,
Right.
there's like cynical like things like, you know, if
It's hard to relate in a first person, first hand sense.
yeah, but even I was like, maybe I should just. I mean, it's one ticket. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not. I haven't done it, but I'm still thinking like, one ticket. And what's one ticket? $10, right? And this is This is a huge cultural win for the right. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the best thing that's probably happened to the right since Passion of the Christ was a huge blockbuster, despite being totally shut out from like every possible avenue, right?
Right. Mel Gibson didn't really help with that.
Exactly. Oh
Yeah.
well, yeah, his personality didn't, but I mean, could
Was this before or after he had that kind of rant?
It was after. It was, yeah, and he had. Well, wait, hold on. I want to be. Maybe it wasn't. But I feel like there was a reason he was like shut out from like, or that Passion was kind of like put on like. It was not going to be. Okay, here controversies.
Yeah, I mean, while you look that up, I mean, just as far as the Sound of Freedom movie goes, I mean, I don't know how you can really question the sincerity of a project like this. I mean, if they're actually trying to get as many people to watch this movie as possible to the point where they've got other people, paying for the tickets just to make sure that people see it. It doesn't seem like an automatic, cynical cash grab when you take that into account.
Same. I think more movies should do that.
Yeah, although
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I suppose you have to be like careful about it. Although
Yeah, in terms of which movies you do, like doing that with Barbie would seem kind of strange.
Ryan Gosling say, "If any of you are literally me, give all your money, all your money to Ken's everywhere."
Yeah, I know Mel Gibson has had his controversies. And I feel like in recent years, though, he's having something of a comeback, at least on the right, perhaps. I know I saw him hanging out with Carrie Lake in that case. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on her name. I know I've seen him associated with her and other politicians similar to her. I mean, what's weird about I'm kind of perplexed by this whole Rob Schneider renaissance people are seeing. It's like, I remember years ago, maybe back in 2015, 2016, when I was hearing, when I was of a bit more of a lefty persuasion in those days, and I would hear people talking about, how the right-wingers are the only true comedians in this case, they're the ones keeping comedy alive. And I thought, from my personal experience, some people might take offense to this, but I'm saying that at around 2015 or 2016, when I was thinking of the, right-wingers I'd been around, I knew personally, they tended not to be the funniest people. Like, I didn't think their senses of humor were that well developed. And I started thinking like, oh yeah, what's next? They're gonna start using like Rob Schneider as this comedic, god all of a sudden. And then all these years later, sure enough, that seems to be kind of what they're doing.
Schneider in
The Stapler.
Well, I think there's a certain degree of laxness when it comes to more conservative people and being politically incorrect. That probably has something to do with it, especially in recent years.
Right.
With the
Exactly.
other side having the opposite.
Oh yeah, I mean, like they're. I mean, nowadays I would say at this point you'd be hard pressed to find like a true left wing, person who's just hysterical. And I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying you might be. It would be more of a search now, I would say, than it would have been, decades in the past. I mean, if you look in the older days, I mean, who was really a conservative comedian like Dennis Miller? I mean, that seems to be almost it. But it's like nowadays, who's really a left-wing comedian nowadays? And the first one that comes to my mind, I mean, this is probably a bad portrayal, but I think of Hannah Gadsby, is the first one that comes to mind. But I know I shouldn't really use her. I don't feel like she's a fair example considering how terrible she is.
Also, if I can just chime in real quick, anyone who's looking for a really good stand-up comedian who's also a libertarian, look no further than Dave Smith.
I was
That
just thinking
guy
Dave Smith.
is hilarious.
Yeah, Dave
And
Smith.
he's also a real libertarian, like very well informed. He has a podcast where it's like not like comedy, but it just ends up being funny because he's funny. But they like talk about libertarian issues, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've got plenty of love for Dave Smith. The whole Part of the Problem podcast. That's a very good choice. I tune into that pretty frequently. His other work too with those comedians, Big J Okerson and Luis Gomez. They have kind of a comedy, podcast on the side as well.
I'm not too familiar with those names.
Yeah, they're part of the legion of not nice ladies. I mean, I'm paraphrasing it, but I am a man who tries not to use such pejorative language. But yeah, it's that's something along the lines of it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the comedy world nowadays is taking quite a shift, really. I mean, if you just look at George Carlin, for example. I mean, he was somebody who would be considered pretty firmly on the left. I mean, if he were around in 2023, I mean, would he still be considered somebody who's on the left? I mean, it's hard to say.
I'm inclined to say no, because I see a lot of just like his clips of just parts of his acts, and they come from very, at least in an abstract sense, he seems like he would have been a pretty good libertarian.
Yeah, I can definitely see him being a staunch critic of political correctness. I mean, he has whole bits, just railing against,
Even just the government in general. I think a lot of that came through.
Exactly. I think libertarian would probably be the best way to describe George Carlin. Now that you mention it, yeah.
Wait, you guys are saying you think George Carlin would be a libertarian?
In 2023, perhaps.
I don't know. He's a
I
pretty...
can't see him fighting for non-binary genders or things like that. In the modern days of leftism.
I feel like he might just fall in line. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's possible. I mean, what about Bill Hicks? I mean, I feel like he could be considered, I know he's
yeah. Bill Hicks. I mean, Bill Hicks is literally Alex Jones. So no, but yeah, I think it would be harder for him to get on board with the.
Yeah. What do you guys think of Norm Macdonald? I think Norm Macdonald could be considered. What would Norm Macdonald be considered politically anyway?
Norm Macdonald.
I don't know anything about him.
Hates politics. He absolutely abhors politics.
That's a libertarian take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he really is not interested. Like, he got in trouble for going to like George Bush's like press, whatever. But he also like went to like Bill Clinton's.
What do you mean got in trouble? Like, did he do something there, or
Well,
what? Or did he get in trouble just?
people were saying that he's like Bush is a war criminal and he shouldn't have been there or whatever.
It was more of an optics thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Norm really just liked to have fun. I mean, he wanted to be funny.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary of him. Yeah.
All right.
You could put others in that too. Like, for example, if I look at somebody like Gilbert Gottfried, for example, I don't see much of a political context behind him, for example. And I think there's a tendency among people to kind of try to ascribe politics to comedians, where I mean there really isn't that much of a political stance, really. I'm trying to think of other comedians really that we could apply this reasoning to.
I mean, it's funny. Godfrey really is like of the like McDonald kind of mold,
Right.
Like he loved just pissing people off. What a king. We hardly knew ye. We hardly knew ye, Mr. Godfrey.
Right, exactly.
I mean, even like Gilbert getting like in trouble for like making like a 9/11 joke like 2 weeks after 9/11.
Yeah.
Respect.
I mean, of all the people it would happen to, it would be him.
It could have happened to a better guy.
Yeah.
To a nicer guy.
Some people might hate on me for saying this, but I think Lenny Bruce is a bit overrated.
I've listened to Leonard Bruce. Unironically, his stuff before his arrest is like, it's good. I mean, especially like in the context of the time. It's like he really does. He really does seem to like. He's an innovator. But after his arrest, which I think was like 1956 or whatever, like if you listen to like his like performances, it's literally just like him talking about like how he got arrested. Really uninteresting, cringe, like no one wants
must
to
have been
hear
the stuff I was seeing then.
What? I'm sorry?
Yeah. That must have been the type of content I was seeing from him then. I wasn't particularly impressed.
Yeah, his early stuff is good. I mean, it was considered groundbreaking. Like Carlin obviously cites him as an influence. Okay, I got my Oppenheimer tickets. Now I gotta get my Barbie tickets.
What day are you watching movies?
When they come out, Friday.
Friday, nice. Bound to be a very eventful night, I guess.
Yeah.
You could watch those movies, or you could watch the new episode of my podcast that's coming out that day.
On the 21st?
It's like you can't see it. You can't see me through my screen, but I'm currently raising my eyebrow in a quizzical sort of way.
Yeah. I mean, now the Venture Brothers movie is also coming out. Are you a Venture Brothers fan?
I certainly am. Yes.
Really?
I am. Yes.
Venture Brothers.
That comes out this Friday. I didn't even know. I had no clue. It's coming out that soon.
Yeah, my friend who is like, yeah, like all three of us who are like libertarian, like Twitter dudes. Like, if any of us were to cancel, like, it's all sight. You know what I mean? Like, we like we take this kind of thing serious. Like, this is the greatest thing to happen in the past year. Is the Venture Brothers movie being released? Like,
That's excellent there. Like, I've personally mellowed out a lot since my teenage years. But I had a friend back in those days who it's like always cracks me up. He told me that I was basically, he told me I reminded him so much of the character of the Monarch that he couldn't even take it seriously anymore. Yeah, like, it's like, I've mellowed out a lot since those days, but I mean, like back in those days, there seemed to be quite a bit of a connection between the two of us.
damn, you got minions.
I mean,
Minion pilled.
I've got a few minions.
It's been
Quality
so.
program.
Honestly, I really should just rewatch all of, because it's been such a long. I mean, because the last season came out like 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I gotta I really gotta get like back in the groove. Especially the last couple seasons. I mean, there is honestly, like, I mean, no disrespect, but the first season was rough. Second to like fourth season was like some of the best television of all time. So I really gotta like rewatch. I gotta remember what's like going on or whatever, because it's been so fucking long. I mean, you know what I mean?
Right. The show's been on for what, 20 years now?
Literally. I mean, if someone would just say, "Oh yeah, it's been," I mean, it's been on for 20 years in the same way that Boondocks has been on for 20 years, right?
Right. I do love the Boondocks as well.
Great fan. Also, another. It's literally like, the Boondocks and the Venture Brothers for, just like the creator being like, "Oh, I don't have anything," and like Adult Swim will be like, "Okay, that's fine. Just come over whenever you have something." And then they'll like, periodically being like popping in. It's like, so, I was just, I was in the neighborhood, and, if you have anything, it's like, "Oh, I don't have anything." It's like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine.
I remember there was briefly kind of a situation like that with that show Louie, but I think Louis C.K.'s current predicament is currently, shot some holes
It got
in that.
canceled after.
Yeah. Yeah. That show was actually pretty good. But the thing is, like, the reason I like Larry David more than Louis C.K. is because, I mean, I feel like Larry David is able to communicate a lot of the same message, but it's like, whereas Larry David is actually like amusing and humorous. I mean, Louis C.K. it's like, for a comedian, he makes the stuff seem like so outrageously depressing and, psychologically exhausting, where it's like, I mean, I do like his content, but it's like, I don't think it's as suitable for, as frequently or as for as many circumstances as something like Curb Your Enthusiasm or Seinfeld in that case. So yeah, I would take Larry David over Louis C.K.
My friend once made a video, and he titled it, it was something like, attempting discourse with an egalitarian. And it's when Louis' oldest daughter gets upset that her youngest daughter got ice cream and that she didn't. I don't know. This is in the early seasons, but it's like why does she get this? And it's like listen, there's not like, it's not like everyone gets exactly the same thing. It's like, And you should never
Oh,
be.
they have seen that.
Don't look. You should never look in your neighbor's bowl to see if he's got more than you. You should only look to make sure he's gotten enough or whatever. And then her daughter was, and his daughter's like, I hate her. Like, why are you giving me like ice cream or whatever? How could you get ice cream? Or
Mhm.
it's a great scene. And I mean, and honestly, like, I mean, you think like, and Louis C.K. seems to be, at least propounds to be a, you know, a quote unquote liberal, a left liberal, right? Who believes in like,
Right.
but like, on the family level, like, he understands like, no, like, it's not, you don't get everything equally. Like, things happen. Like, if I'm driving past like McDonald's, I'm gonna get McDonald's, and you know, you're just gonna have to deal with it.
Mm. Right, yeah. But he's got some good messages on the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun exploration of like basically like private security, right?
Right, exactly. That's very true. Very true. I mean, it's a quality show.
Wait, what is? Huh?
Louis? We're talking about Louis, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that was
I just got back. Well,
Yeah, Louis and the Venture Brothers, Kilbing are. Have you ever watched the Venture Brothers?
no and no.
Oh, neither one of those shows.
Yes.
Venture Brothers. I mean, you know, like Adult Swim, right?
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day, not. I mean, we're basically the same age, but like 10 years ago, Venture Brothers was considered like one of the most important shows in the sense of like people watching of Adult Swim,
Uh-huh.
and it's very good. I mean, and there's also like a lot of like what's his name? H. John Benjamin's in it. Oh God, what's the who voices Brock Sampson? Morgan?
the guy who does all those voices. I know he was Krunk.
I'm
It's
Putty.
Krunk.
Oh yeah, he's Krunk. He's Brock. Right. I mean, it really. I think it literally is like the most well-funded show on Adult Swim, but it also Patrick Warburton,
Oh yeah.
the voice of the Tick, the coach in home movies, Putty in Seinfeld. But anyway, like this, for a long time, this is like the flagship show for Adult Swim. Man, you really haven't seen any. You don't even know like the Venture Brothers is Kilbane?
That is correct.
Damn, bro, we gotta watch some of that. Although the first episode sucks ass. Second one is a little better. Third one is great. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Whenever I try like show people the Venture Brothers, I'm like, all right, I guess we'll start at the beginning. It just sucks. Like the one where they go to the DC is bad. The Mexican one is like not that good. It's literally only that third episode where it's like a good show like on its own.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What's your position, Morgan?
On the Venture Brothers?
Like the first, like the pilot and the first episode being good or bad or like presentable to like normies.
They were presentable, you know. I mean, this thing is, it is almost the show is kind of serialized in a sense, and I mean, unfortunately, if I had to show them chronologically the first and second episodes, I'd probably be groaning inside a bit because I don't think that would be the best, way to introduce them to it. If you take another show such as, like BoJack Horseman, for example, where basically the first half of the first season is just lousy, but then after that it becomes really, really, really good. It's like you might think, trying to introduce somebody with those first two episodes might kind of turn them away. So yeah, long story short, I'd say I would agree with your assessment of the early episodes of the show. They're still kind of trying to find their footing at that point, I think, stylistically. When you factor in how crazy Brock was, like they had that kind of plot point in the early days where Brock was this like eye-twitching, maniac, which they really cooled down on, afterwards. But yeah, just different, plot points such as that. Let me see something here. Okay. So, Kelvin, do you have a YouTube channel or anything like that?
Yeah, but it's mostly like video game centered.
Yeah, I see.
And it's really not like big at all.
Okay. I mean, not a problem. So if you don't watch, Venture Brothers, I mean, do you watch anything on Adult Swim in that case?
Not for
Rick and Morty.
a long time. Yeah, I follow Rick and Morty, but I mean, is that really on Adult Swim technically?
I mean, in the same way that Venture Brothers is, I suppose, right?
Okay, because like I don't have cable anymore, so like I've only watched it online. But technically it is being like posted on Adult Swim, so I suppose that's the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to watch Rick and Morty, but I kind of turned away from it after people started telling me that I reminded them of Morty, so I got so angry I couldn't watch it anymore.
That sounds like a fake thing you would say to like make someone laugh.
It really happened.
Well, did you ask him about it and then try to refute it?
I had a hard time refuting it, if we're being honest here. There might be some kernels of truth to that.
I don't know, but
Okay.
I mean, I don't. You're.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I mean, listen. You're. What do you call it? You have your disposition is very welcoming. And I feel like, I suppose it's possible someone could take advantage of that, but I wouldn't say you're not like a doorstop or what was it? What was that thing like right in front of like someone's house?
A doormat?
Doormat. Yeah, you're not a doormat. Yeah, you're not a doorstop either, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I don't see it. I do know people that remind me of like Morty, but you're not one of them.
Oh, thank you. I was thinking, like, please let him say that I'm not one of them.
And you are among them.
Well, there are worse characters, like
Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry's Adam 22.
Yeah. A lot of the people who I want to say, take the record, a lot of the people who like to see themselves as Rick or think that they're similar to Rick, in reality, they're Jerry. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Rick and Morty's, I think it's the finale of the second season is good because Rick is able to literally like destroy the galactic empire by hacking the currency system and making like causing hyperinflation, and then literally everyone like just kills themselves. that has there's certain Austrian strokes there.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, damn.
Good.
Damn, Kelvin, you and me should definitely watch Venture Brothers.
Mayhaps.
There's no better adult swim. Like,
Really? You think it's better than Rick and Morty? Not necessarily.
100%, 100% better than Rick and Morty.
Even just like in terms of like the comedic
It's funnier.
value.
It's better made. Like literally, it looks better. Like, I mean, have you ever seen like even the first episode, which I think is like the worst one that's ever been made. The animation is great. The comedy's not there, but like it's better than made than Rick. I mean, here like Rick and Morty is like obviously like kind of like, oh, you're gay if you try too hard, or you know what I mean? Like, I mean, literally the style is kind of like. And listen, I'm a Rick and Morty fan. I've watched every single Rick and Morty that's ever been made. But let's be clear here. I mean, there's kind of like a, you know, Justin Roiland's like kind of thing is just like, you don't want to be seen to be trying too hard, otherwise you're gay, right?
Yeah.
Venture Brothers tries very hard, which is why it takes like 2 years for them to make a season. Or 2, 3, 4, 5 years to make a season. But it's really well made. It's sort of kind of like the polar opposite. But I know you like quality television, you know? You did. I think you would like the Venture Brothers. I can't wait. Yeah. And Morgan, I have plans to watch it, but maybe literally unironically, like I will try if you're interested. I'll try to get you in on the stream because I assume we're gonna be doing it as well, honestly, like maybe one of us will just pay for the stream and we'll stream it.
What day is this?
It'll be Friday. That's when it comes out.
Man, you're watching everything on Friday.
I guess so. But maybe it'll be before I go. But, Kelbing, I didn't ask if you're are you Barbieheimer pilled?
You know, I find it odd that this is not the first time that these two movies have been brought up in reference to seeing them both at once, and I don't know what to make of that, and I think I'm kind of out of the loop here.
I think it just comes from the fact that they're both coming out on the same day, and they have such different subject matter and such a different, target audience. I feel like people are kind of jumping on that and trying to, make it out like some kind of, almost like some kind of wild roller coaster ride in a sense, seeing them both back to back.
Yes. Interesting. Wait, so what was your question originally, Adrian?
I guess Adrian was basically just asking if you're going to watch both of them, back to back or something like that as some type of double feature.
Oh, I think that had been at some point proposed in my circles somewhere, but I can't put my finger on exactly what those plans are at the moment.
Yeah. As for me, I probably will watch both of them, but separately. I mean, I doubt I'm going to watch them back to back like that. And the truth of the matter is, although it might not sound like it from this conversation, I don't watch a lot of movies and TV personally. I mean, I've been speaking on shows that just happen to be the ones that I have watched over the course of my life. But I feel like there's a lot out there that I don't really follow, or that maybe I'll have seen, a little bit of. But, I'm somebody who doesn't really spend a lot of time, following, movies and TV personally. But I feel like just now at this point, there's just a lot of stuff that happens to be coming out, so I am kind of trying to staying on top of that.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I'm somebody who tends to I'm just not a big, I don't follow a lot of movies and TV, at least not in recent years. In my younger days, I feel like I was more up to date with that sort of thing. But I'm older now. I now that I'm working a lot, I keep kind of a busy schedule, so it's kind of tricky, to keep up to date with that sort of stuff.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what Adrian's doing right now. Let's see. I guess he's maybe trying to work on his own cooking skills right now. Anyway, Kelvin, so what's your schedule like? I mean, are you currently, working a job or anything like that?
Yes, I have a full-time job. It's relatively time consuming, and so yeah, not a whole lot of free time as of recently.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, I'm working for a bank currently, and I know I'm being recorded right now, so I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm just going to come out and say that I hate my customers. I hate that. I'm not a big fan of the job personally. That's
Okay.
just my sense of it. My goal
That's
is
fair. Customers tend to be shitty because they feel entitled.
Right. Exactly. And, they tend to take it out on you just because you're the poor sap who picked up the phone.
Yeah.
In this case, I'm somebody who's, I'm trying to start my own business at the end of the day. That's something I'm trying to get into. Trying to get into the entrepreneurship. And I just kind of see this current job as a stepping stone towards that, as far as saving up funds, for that investment.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, saving up those funds. I mean, it definitely requires a higher time preference, to amass those funds and to, basically not go through the funds as you get them. But, I just think long-term thinking is, crucial for any type of entrepreneurial venture, really.
A lower time preference.
Did I say higher time preference?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I know. I love dogging people for that because it's so counterintuitive, right? Right, because higher usually means good, right?
Yeah, it's getting late. I'm getting pretty tired myself.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I shall also be heading out then.
Okay. Well, Adrian, I guess.
Go ahead.
I guess I'll personally bid you adieu.
All right. Yeah, we can end the stream. It's been a while.
Yeah. This was fun, though. Anytime you're doing this again, I'd be down to do it again.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good chat. Good talking.